Well, the situation that you and I face in this country and around the world in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic is a real test of leadership. There are big questions around the leadership being shown in many countries around the world. Obviously, issues in the United States, in the United Kingdom. At the same time, people are asking what kind of leadership you need to lead a democracy during a pandemic. Someone who's been both a leader in his own right and is now an academic is Dr. Sydney Mufamadi, a former minister in the cabinet in the early 2000s here in South Africa. He's now at the University of Johannesburg. He joins us now. Dr. Mufamadi, good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for your time. Firstly, how would you rate the leadership that's been shown by our government in this?
Well, I think our leadership has managed to step up to the plate. Mind you, we have a public health system which is not quite as robust as it should be. You know, the idea of prevention, which has its base in our strategic vision, it's one that has not been practiced as well as it should be. But this pandemic showed the necessity for us to reorientate our system, our health system, in order for it to place emphasis on prevention, because containment of this pandemic needed us to be proactive. So I'm saying they managed to do with what they have, but I think in the end we ranked amongst the star performers with respect to this question, because the extent to which we succeeded in cutting down the infection rate was just as good as that of a country like South Korea, which is one of the world's success stories in this regard.
This is obviously a very hard time to be a leader. It's a democracy. You have to allow people certain freedoms, and now suddenly you have to institute laws and regulations that simply would not be allowed under normal circumstances. Does it make it difficult to try and be a leader in a democratic country where citizens have rights and freedoms during this time of a pandemic and you want everyone to stay at home?
No, sure, but you know what this has actually done. You remember that in the earlier days of the post-94 dispensation, government was talking about investing in improving the quality of relationship between society and the state, setting up structures such as community police forums, ward committees, in order to ensure that the system of government here in our country is one that is consultative. I think what has been spotlighted by the way we were working in the context of this pandemic is that there has been an underinvestment in this regard, which is why there has been an over-reliance on enforcement rather than on collaboration with the community. But generally speaking, even if we had done well with respect to having structures that promote consultative processes of government, instances of this kind where you have to have lockdown measures, they are inherently problematic, with the potential to trump civil liberties, which then means the leadership has to be very, very careful even about the language they use. Take, for instance, the summoning of military metaphors, framing the challenge as if it's one in which you need to deviate from commitments such as we had in the past, where we said we need to demilitarize the policing culture. So I'm saying, therefore, that you can communicate a message other than the one that you actually intend, which is why we've had problems such as the Khoza problem in Alexander Township, So I'm saying, therefore, that the leadership has to be extra cautious when you deal with a situation like this.
There's a huge governance problem coming in terms of the lockdown and the economy, and should government lift the lockdown or not, and how that would be done. And obviously, it's not binary, it's not the economy or lives, it's far more complex than that. Do you have a direction in which you would go?
Well, as you say, government finds itself with vexed by many difficult choices. This is a period indeed of hard choices, where you need to balance the saving of livelihoods and the saving of lives. But therefore, in that context, the restarting of the economy is definitely an absolute necessity. But government alone cannot address this challenge. You need to see our companies coming forward, working with NEDLEC and organized labor to devise exit plans from the current lockdown. This notion of collaborative initiatives, we need to make sure that the workplace does not become, when you resume economic activity, it does not become a new hotspot of infections, which means organized labor on the shop floor must be working with management as well as corporate strategists to address this question, while government is looking at the broader question of reigniting the economy and regenerating economic life in the shorter and longer term. So all I'm saying is all hands must be on deck, everyone working with everybody else who has got a vested interest in this matter.
Dr. Mufamadi, do you worry that maybe we aren't all working together? There seem to be strong voices going this way, strong voices going the other way, a lot of pressure on government, and then perhaps maybe some questions around government's own behavior here. I mean, the Collins Causa case involving soldiers. I'm sure you've heard about the regulations around which T-shirts you can buy and which T-shirts you can't buy. Is this becoming more and more of a difficult situation for government?
Well, I think government must make sure that it does not lose its cool. This is a difficult situation. It's a novel one. A lot of learning by doing will be taking place. But it's important that no one chooses a corner where they just stand there and become armchair critics. I think all of us have got something of value to add by way of firstly advising, but also looking at our own vantage positions and say from our vantage positions, what is it that we can add to this national effort at dealing with this pandemic. For instance, you guys as the media and us as scholars, we need to make ourselves more socially useful by positioning ourselves to play the role of heightening public sensitivity to the danger of the contagion, so that even these issues of social distancing, as I said, they must rely less on coercion and more on consent. How do we make sure that social distancing measures become a new common sense? I'm saying there is a lot that we can contribute by way of civic education, can't we?
Dr. Sydney Mufamadi, do appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed.